Van Halen's Fair Warning is considered one of their essential albums, but did you know it was the slowest selling album of the David Lee Roth era? That's what we're going to discuss today, why it didn't sell well when it was released, and why, many years later, it's considered one of their best and most influential albums. I'll also be showing the vinyl I bought at a Mexico City street fair, which might look a little different than the American version. With that in mind, let's take a look at the vinyl record first. Okay, let's take a look at the vinyl. So here it is. Here's the album cover. You can see, like I said before, that the Van Halen logo is all the way up at front, and then the Fair Warning is in small font in here. And you can see it shows the artwork, which is kind of very different for a Van Halen type of album. So flipping it over now, we look at the back cover, and keep in mind I got this at a Mexico City street fair. So this is the Mexican pressing. So you can see the song titles are in Spanish, as you can see right here. And here are the ones in English. They're not in order for some reason. I don't know why they did that, but it's just how it is. And then there's some other curiosities down here, like a little sticker here, the label, a disco es cultura, which means music is culture. There's a Ted Templeman thing right here, produced by Ted Templeman, and a couple other things, so little Warner labels and such. Okay, so now let me look at the record. Now here's the vinyl record. Supposedly there's an insert with a black and white photo. I don't know if maybe the Mexican version didn't have it, or just because it's a used vinyl and it didn't come with it. But anyway, here it has the Warner Brothers label with the song titles in the English and Spanish. And it has like that. Side 2, basically the same thing. Warner Brothers label and the song titles in English and Spanish. So you can take a look at that. But now let me return to the video. Now let's take a look at why Fair Warning was the slowest selling album of the David Lee Roth era. I think the biggest reason is that it was their fourth album. The first three albums had more of a commercial sound, but this one was a little darker. The band had a reputation for being a fun-loving party band that released catchy and accessible songs. However, Fair Warning was darker, heavier. Songs were more aggressive. Eddie Van Halen was always someone who wanted to do something different. He didn't always want to do the same thing. He experimented with different directions. This resulted in songs that weren't the same feel-good party tracks that people knew from the radio. There was one song that did get some airplay, though. It was Unchained. One of those songs that probably sounds like it could have come off one of the first two albums. In other words, it was a minor hit, a popular song. It was upbeat and similar to songs like Dance the Night Away or Everybody Wants Some. Another reason this album didn't sell very well at first was because it didn't have the hit singles. The band was known for the singles, but Fair Warning had a few singles that barely missed the Billboard Hot 100. So for example, So This Is Love didn't even make the Hot 100, and therefore the album didn't get that much radio exposure as the other albums. Consequently, it didn't attract as many new fans, and it may have been less appealing to the casual fans who only knew their radio hits. Then is the album Art, and this one features William Currig's painting, The Maze. It's a dark painting, depicts pain and struggle, and it fits the mood. However, if you compare it to the first three albums, where the first two had that big Van Halen logo on the cover, this was different. It didn't really scream Van Halen. Not only that, but if you can see like the logo up here, it's really small and you can barely see it. So if you're in the record store flipping through records, you might not even notice it at first. So that's why this cover, although it's very unique, it didn't really do it the justice. Furthermore, it was released in 1981, a time when New Wave was becoming very popular. People liked those big upbeat songs with electronic synth sounds, and they liked those upbeat, punky types of rock tracks like Blondie or similar bands. So it was a somewhat dark album for the times, but despite this, years later, it's considered one of their best albums. And that's what I want to discuss in this next part of the video. So why is it considered one of their best albums? I think when it comes to Van Halen, everything goes back to Eddie Van Halen. He was doing a lot of different things. His guitar playing could even be called angrier. It was more aggressive and technical. We know the first three albums were filled with his amazing guitar solos, but he wanted to try some different things. A good example would be the intro to the song Mean Street, where he uses his tapping and harmonics at the beginning of the song. There's also that instrumental called Sunday Afternoon in the Park, which features this dark synth, and that was the first time the band used synths on their album. Another big reason is that a lot of guitarists over the years say that Fair Warning was one of the reasons they picked up the guitar. Many new and young guitar players said that they wanted to emulate what Eddie Van Halen was doing. One example would be Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction and formerly the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He publicly stated that the album Fair Warning, and specifically the song Mean Streets, was a big influence on him picking up the guitar. He even went on to say that Mean Street had this, and I quote, impeccable intro with his finger tapping muting situation going on, which I still can't wrap my head around. Dave Navarro also calls this his favorite Van Halen album and his favorite Eddie Van Halen guitar tone. Another reason this album is considered one of the best because, as I touched before, it shifted away from the party rock reputation they had from the first three albums. This album is more serious, more introspective, the themes are darker, the guitars are heavier, and the overall mood is more menacing. I think this album resonates with a lot of listeners who enjoy albums that are more than just superficial party rock albums. Another big reason that it's one of the most consistent albums. It's the type of album you put on, you listen to from front to back. You don't really need to pick out any singles. One of those albums that you listen to from start to finish. It's a short album. It's about 31 minutes long. So it's a perfect record. You just put on the record, you flip it over, you listen to it, and that's it. And another reason is that a lot of fans consider this to be the band at their peak with the original Van Halen lineup. Because after this, the band started to have some problems. The album after this was Diver Down, and that's filled with cover songs, and some people don't like that one. Then it was 1984, which is a good album, but Fair Warning is kind of the last album when the band, and by band I mean the original lineup, was in this good place. And another reason is it's one of those albums that has gained cult status. It might not have been popular as first, but it's the album many musicians might cite as their favorite, like I was saying with Dave Navarro before. I think a good comparison would be AC/DC's Powerage. That album seems to have a lot of the same characteristics as this one. And finally, this album shows the band in their natural progression. For example, the use of synthesizers on Sunday Afternoon in the Park would be something the band would be doing later on with albums like 1984, and also later on with the Sammy Hagar albums. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your thoughts on Van Halen's Fair Warning? Are you a fan, or do you prefer their other albums? Where would you rank it? Check out this other video right here I did on my channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. I do videos related to physical media on this channel. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.